I'm here with Ken Worpole, social historian and writer, and Ken's going to tell us about why we're here.
We're walking from Wivenhoe to Frating Hall Farm. I've always been interested in the sort of social history of Essex in the 20th century, particularly the sort of religious and political alternative communities.
Why Essex?
I began to get interested in that sort of story of the move from London to the coast and to often very strangely rural or self-made settlements, because I thought there was the key to why it makes Essex so different, because the boundaries between rural and urban are very fluid.
In some respects it's like really easy to get into. It can also be like incredibly remote. So it's also a place where people can disappear into as well, isn't it? Like the hinterland.
Yeah, so for example, Osey Island was, I think, 1904. The son of the big brewery family, the Charringtons, set up a retreat there for alcoholics. And Mersey Island has been a place for lots of, religious groups or political groups, for campsites, summer camps. It's away from everybody else. Orthona, which is a Christian retreat that I'm very interested in, set up in 1945 after the war to bring German and British Christians together. It's an interesting place for people basically to hide away and do things differently, which always to me is very interesting. I could write a book, and I had box files of notes about Essex in the 20th century and sort of countermanding this idea that it was just a rough place full of unpleasant people. If you defend something so strenuously, you find yourself sometimes reinforcing it. I couldn't find a way of opening it up.
It's in line that one has to tread. I mean, that's what I've tried to do in my exhibition.
We moved several times, and when Hadley, we actually lived next door to a small chapel, which was the chapel of the peculiar people. And it was a religion unique to Essex, only ever developed in Essex, but in the 1860s onwards. And by the 1930s, they had 57 chapels in Essex.
And so their name peculiar, is that just what the locals called
No,
them?
There is a paragraph in one of the books of the Bible. God one day will create a peculiar people who really believe in everything. Yeah.
Going from the peculiar people to the naturists.
I think it is symbolic that the first naturist gathering in Britain was in Wickford, which was a plotland community, by the way.
And do you know why particularly Wickford?
Only because it had this strong plotland culture and turn your back on mainstream living.
Okay, anything conventional. Okay.
Yeah, unconventional. We're literally sitting in front of Frating Hall, which is the centrepiece of Frating Hall Farm, a 300-acre farm goes back 1700 or something. Frating Hall Farm is probably one of the most successful but least known of these very important pacifist communities that developed up in the 1930s, partly as a response to the horrors of the First World War, who shield themselves against criticisms that they were just too scared to do anything or not help the nation. They adopted the notion of going back to the land and farming throughout the war as a way of contributing their bit without taking up arms. So there was a big choir here that toured the local villages. They had a theatre group that toured the local villages. The barn was used for these big theatre events and choral events. So it was a genuine, thriving community with a very self-sufficient cultural life as well, which began to spread out to the neighbouring villages as well. Initially, of course, there was quite a lot of hostility. Because
they're pacifists and during the war.
But they broke that down really by showing that A, that they could actually run a farm, and B, by doing these choral concerts and so on.